All right, guys. I'm back with another short lecture on what is plagiarism, why is it bad, and how do you make sure you find the right sources and then, don't plagiarize them. So, first, plagiarism. What is it? Plagiarism is essentially the theft of ideas, right? You're taking somebody else's idea or knowledge or facts or whatever and presenting them as your own. Okay, and that's bad because it's intellectual theft, right? As a scientist, if I come up with this great new idea and publish it, and then somebody else steals that idea and publishes it in a way that makes it get a lot more views, people are going to think it was his idea, not my idea, and that's bad, right? That's theft. So we use the citation system to tell people exactly where we got information. Okay, and in most writing styles, there's APA and MLA and Chicago and a whole bunch of other ones. But I think in almost all of them, there is some kind of in-text citation, meaning like in the middle of the paper or in the middle of the book or in the middle of whatever you're writing, you put some kind of mark. And then there's also the end of text citations, where at the end of the paper, book, or whatever, there's a lot more information about where exactly that you got that idea. Where did you get that that thing? So when do we cite? We cite any time that we're using somebody else's idea or information. Okay, we have to. If it's common knowledge, you don't need to cite it. But if it's something you got from somebody else, then you need to put some kind of citation in there to say, this is where I got this information. This isn't from my own mind. It's not my own personal experience. It's not common knowledge. It's something that I got from somewhere else. Okay? Now, where are those places? Well, the best places to find research, if you're going to write an actual scientific paper, research paper for high school or college, trying to get something published, any kind of scientific or technical report, paper, book, whatever, you're going to have to go out and find people who have kind of looked at that subject before you. You need to start any process like that with figuring out what people before you have done. The best place to find that are academic journals. Okay, these are usually expensive to acquire unless you are a high school or college student, and usually your school will pay for access to these things. But they are kind of the tip top of the best places to find research because of the peer review process, right? And the way that works is, let's say I write a paper. I send it to the journal. The journal says, thank you very much. We'll get back to you in a minute. Then they take my name and any identifying information about me off of it and send it to 3 different people who are experts in the subject, right? And those 3 don't know who each other are. They don't know who I am. They just know that they're reviewing this paper. And they sit down and they write out what they think. Should this be, are the methods good? Are the methods bad? Is the idea kind of consistent with what they know? Should it be reorganized, or something need to be explained better? Essentially, they tear it apart. They do everything they can to try to make it look bad, right? The journal collects those back up, and then it makes a decision whether to publish it or not, or to there's 3 possible choices. They can say, we're going to publish this, which almost never happens. We're not going to publish this, which also fairly rarely happens. But what's much more common is the third option, which is essentially fix these problems that the reviewers identified and resubmit it, please. And sometimes that can you can go through 2 or 3 or 4 or more times where they revise and resubmit, revise and resubmit, revise and resubmit. But what that means is nothing gets published in these academic journals without being incredibly able to stand up to the criticism of the experts in the field. So if it can withstand that process, then it's probably really important, good information. The best place to find these things, if your institution has access to it, are EBSCO and ProQuest. These are databases of academic journals, right? So you can just do a search for, if you're writing a paper on, I don't know, the American Revolution, you can go to those and do a database search on American Revolution and George Washington and John Adams and all those different subjects, and see what pops up, see what journal articles are there for you to read for that. Google Scholar is another good source. Okay, Google Scholar is a very similar thing, but done obviously through the Google program. So if you open up a web browser and go to Google, one of the kind of there's Google Maps and Google Mail and Google this and Google that. One of those is Google Scholar, and you can use that service to find essentially these peer-reviewed journal articles. A lot of them are going to be behind a paywall, but a lot of them aren't going to be. So look for those that are free and open access. 95% of a good research paper citations should be from journal articles. Academic books, like good nonfiction, heavy-duty academic books, are also good, right? The problem is they take a lot longer to read. They take a lot longer to work through. So I wouldn't recommend going with that unless you already, if you've already read one or have to read it for another purpose anyway or something like that. Go ahead and use books, but try to stay away from them just because they take up so much time and energy. Newspapers, sometimes if you need to talk about some historical event or, so-and-so assassinated this other guy on such and such a date, you can use things like newspapers. Try to keep it to the big ones. New York Times, USA Today, Washington Post, that kind of thing. Other sources, keep to an absolutely bare minimum. Official government statistics, those are okay. You can find those on the internet. But don't use, Billy Bob's blog or a fiction book unless you're specifically talking about that fiction book. That's the subject of the paper or something. Don't try to keep the sources as kind of, I don't want to say mainstream or popular, but I mean, it essentially works out that way. They need to be kind of respected sources rather than just some guy on a blog somewhere. Okay? All right, that's the end. Thank you very much.